Okay, many of you have emailed me with a question about this word Hikarakuyô that keeps appearing in the Renga sequences that we were reading and in the explanations about Renga, medieval linked Japanese verse. So I thought I would read the following excerpt from Professor Nakanishi Susumu's book, The Japanese Linguistic Landscapes, Reflections on Quintessential Words, which I translated and which came out last year. I'll put the link to that book in the description. But he spent a whole section on this term, which is very important in Renga poetry and haikai poetry, and in Japanese traditional poetry in general. So I thought I'd just read the entire entry. It's 2 pages. So I will provide the link to the book. You can buy the book and follow along with me as I read here. Hikarakuyô, whirling petals and falling leaves. The word Hikarakuyô is a compound phrase that combines 2 Chinese words, hika, whirling petals, and rakuyô, falling leaves. The first half of the term, hika, refers to flower petals fluttering about in the air. The idea has roots in the image of a cherry tree or sakura in the process of losing its petals. The rakuyô part of the word, meanwhile, connotes what happens when a rain shower comes sweeping in and causes leaves to fall from trees, a phenomenon that occurs in a wide variety of deciduous species. The hika part denotes a natural occurrence that transpires in spring, but the rakuyô process most often takes place in autumn. In terms of scenic imagery, however, the 2 words actually refer to the same phenomenon. Hikarakuyô is a phrase that attempts to capture the whirling, falling movement itself in its essence, not with any seasonal specificity. In the interval between summer, when natural life flourishes with an ascending vivacity, and winter, when life quiets down, there is a short spell of natural variation that reshapes the fundamental state of life. Hikarakuyô speaks to that transformative dimension. Our ancestors attached tremendous importance to seasonal change. The fluttering petals can be distracting and disorienting, so dangerous in fact that they can even get you killed. That is certainly how it seemed to Otomo no Yakamochi, 718 to 785, whose poem on the subject appears in Book 7 of the Manyoshu. Yono naka wa kazu naki mono ka haru hana no chiri no magai ni shinu beki yomoeba. In modern Japanese literature, it was Sakaguchi Ango, the 20th century writer, who echoed that same notion in his acclaimed short story Sakura no Mori no Mankai no Shita ni, In the Forest Under Cherries in Full Bloom, published in 1949. In a similar way, falling leaves, rakuyô, have always inspired feelings of danger and peril. The classical poet Kakinomoto Hitomaro, 662 to 710, for instance, grieved for his wife when she failed to return after wandering into the mountain hillsides and getting lost in the thick autumn leaves called momiji. Even today, many of us probably sense the beckoning of death in the image of fallen leaves. The image of incessantly falling leaves can be thoroughly mesmerizing. In any event, the inclination of Japanese people to regard wanderings, magire, and confusion, magai, as dangerous hazards is a tradition that goes back a long way. The fact that people of the Heian period even referred to the vicissitudes of romantic love as things in a state of disarray, mono no magire, is a case in point. In fact, many Heian-era people believed that the reason people fell in love was due to a certain mental disorder, a psychological disturbance. Ironically enough, it was while living in the United States that the imagery and implications of fallen leaves struck me most profoundly. The trees along the boulevard, fanned by the strong winds, seemed to convulse as their leaves blew off in all directions. Meanwhile, along the road, huge piles of fallen leaves accumulated in massive heaps. That's it, I found myself thinking. Hikarakuyô, whirling petals and falling leaves. The great Renga poets of the Muromachi period, 1336 to 1573, valued the four-character Hikarakuyô compound as a singularly poetic expression. In fact, the term had drawn substantial attention even further back in antiquity. Moreover, the phrase represents a scene that is found not only in Japan, but also all over the world. Okay, so that description of the term Hikarakuyô from one of Japan's leading scholars of classical literature should give you an idea of what the connotations and the resonances and the associations of the term are. Alright, if you have any questions about this term, Hikarakuyô, let me know by email, and you will no doubt encounter this word again in the course as we read further works. Goodbye for now.